the social cost of the fall in social morality caused by not having institutions to counter the individualism and greed promotion of the market is what is going to eat away at our society and our economy. And I think I'll end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark. And also thank you for staying with, he gave us an actual minutes extra, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, well, then
Yeah. I'm a very simple man. Let me now bring to the podium for his presentation on Catholicism and Democratic Capitalism, the theologian and former U.S. Ambassador, Mr. Michael Novak, who currently holds the George Frederick Jewett Chair in Religion, Philosophy, and Public Policy at the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C. Mr. Novak.
Thank you very much. It's really good of you to have me, and I'm especially glad to come here for Joe, whom I've known ever since he was a kid, just out of graduate school. And Peter Berger sent him to me and described Joe as one of his very best students, and I would enjoy meeting him, and he was right. Yeah, I did. I wish that Charles Clark and I had time to go through a case of cognac together, little by little, over a long period of time, because I agree with a great deal of what he said, maybe more than half, and maybe after enough cognac, 3/4. But we do disagree on a bunch of points, and I don't want to go into that now because that's not the point of this discussion. I just would like to say that he said a great many wise and shrewd things. I'm not an economist. Theologians, philosophers have not been good with numbers ever since we counted angels on pins. I mean, it's not our métier. My approach is a bit different. It's a bit more philosophical and theological. I'd like to begin with a quote from G.K. Chesterton, one I really love. It's so vivid. For the mass of men, the idea of artistic creation can only be expressed in an idea unpopular at present discussions, the idea of property. It's amazing how few people defend property in universities these days. The average man cannot cut clay into the shape of a man, but he can cut earth into the shape of a garden. And though he arranges it with red geraniums and blue potatoes and alternate straight lines, he is still an artist because he has chosen. The average man cannot paint the sunset whose colors he admires, but he can paint his own house with what color he chooses. And though he paints it pea green with pink spots, he is still an artist because that is his choice. Property is merely the art of democracy. It means that every man shouldn't have something that he can shape in his own image as he is shaped in the image of heaven. Now, that's one of the age-old Catholic embraces of rights. It's one of the first rights that in the economic field that the Catholic Church has recognized almost since the beginning. Of course, it goes back to Roman times. My assignment is to talk about democratic capitalism, so let me hurry into that. For centuries, there were only books, concerns, studies about politics. Aristotle's, Thomas Aquinas, Dante, Machiavelli, and so forth. Only in the 18th century, 1776 roughly, did a new study arise in history: political economy. For the first time in history, somebody asked the question, what are the causes of the wealth of nations? Powerful question. Most people ask, at least today, ask about the causes of poverty, which is a useless question. Suppose you figured out the answer. Now you know how to make more poverty. I mean, really, the interesting question is, what are the causes of wealth? Because if you can figure that out, you have a way of ending poverty, which is exactly Adam Smith's vision. He was the first man who had a vision of universal human economic development. He spoke of universal affluence. He wanted to put a firm material base under every single woman and man on this planet and relieve them from the immemorial poverty which imprisoned them. So it's important to see that his first and underlying motive, why he called his book An Inquiry into the Nature and the Cause of the Wealth of Nations, not the wealth of individuals, is a social motive. He is the first to see the task, the human task, as ending poverty all around the world, and to try to imagine systems that come closer to that than any other, and improve them, alter them, change them over time as is required. Now, the word is not invented by Adam Smith. It comes into use later, capitalism. And since that's part of my title, I want to explain it. It's the one that's least easy to understand. Capitalism is not markets. There have been markets for thousands and thousands of years. Jerusalem, ancient Jerusalem, was essentially a market. It was a meeting place between three continents for buyers and sellers. There were no factories, no smokestacks. It was not even a rich farming area. It was very largely desert and difficult terrain, very close to famine in bad seasons. And markets aren't exactly private property. Private property is ancient. I mean, capitalism is not private property. Property is ancient. I mean, the commandment, thou shalt not steal, makes no sense if there isn't property. Capitalism, a kind of economic system which is new, which begins slowly and has roots over many centuries, but it really becomes recognized as a system, even a system that begins to become the number one system, not quite, but on its way to that, at the time of Adam Smith. Actually, it's more accurate to say that Adam Smith and David Hume and several others called for such a system before it existed. The essence of capitalism is not markets, and it's not private property. The essence of it is kaput, the head, ideas, inventions, like Adam Smith's pin machine. He didn't make as much out of that as he should have. But he noted that it took 2 weeks for 2 men working round the clock to produce, I don't remember, 4 pins. And then the man who figured out how to make a press that would produce hundreds of pins at a time, thousands of pins in a week, gave a great gift to humankind. At the beginning of the 19th century, only duchesses had pins. By the end of it, every working girl had pins. The same with silk stockings. Only duchesses, everybody. And enterprise, meaning the ability to look around and see what needs to be done and how to do it, and the stick-to-itiveness to get it done. This country is the great country of enterprise. The word is used much more frequently in America than in England. Why? It's what we depended on.